Okay, welcome everyone. Is my voice audible? Just type yes if you can hear my voice. Okay, wonderful. Let me just and oh, okay. Well, can you see my screen? If hopefully you can. I'll just you can see my screen. Okay, wonderful. All right, let's start with a warm up before I introduce what the workshop is about. Now, in front of you are two paragraphs, A and B. Skim them, read them very quickly, okay, and decide. Type on the chat box A or B which one is simpler, more direct, and concise, or to the point. And maybe if you can explain why. So is it A or is it B? I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay, so which one is it? Is it A or is it B? What do you think? Let me just okay, some of you say A, some of you say okay, I got two B's, okay. All right, I guess that settles it. It's actually B. It's simpler, it's more direct and more concise. Uh, Now in this workshop, we would like to reverse engineer how B is, let's say, is composed. Okay, so by the end of this presentation or this workshop, you'll be able to understand the concept of simplicity in writing. You'll be able to hopefully reflect on your own writing in hope to add a refreshing sense into your writing. And lastly, you'll be able to apply it in your own writing and hopefully in your research papers and so on and so forth. So um, let me just briefly introduce myself, since I'm not a faculty member. I'm actually a PhD student. I'm doing my PhD in applied linguistics, and my background in writing can be split into two halves. So the first half has been I'm self-taught. I kind of worked really hard to understand writing as a craft, writing as an art, let's say, from books, from online courses, and also from practicing. So I've been blogging for 8 years about a variety of topics, from ranging from philosophy, affairs, and science, and all of that. And the second half is kind of like more educational, more professional. So I designed two writing programs. One of them is for the IELTS, and the second one is more of for argumentative writing. So I call it writing critically, and before coming to my PhD program, I was an editor for two academic projects. I'm sure you know one of them, which is the NCAAA. So I was an editor for the self-report, um, the self-study reports over there, and for the CA as well, which is the Commission for English Language Accreditation. So enough about me. This workshop is actually about you. Um, it's a highly practical workshop. it's expected of you um, to be engaged with the material here, because only when you're engaged will you be able to grasp the principle of simplicity. Okay, what do we mean by simplicity? Just a couple of introduction here. When we talk about simplicity, we mean um, vividness, or vivid and concrete word choice. So your word choice are always exact, okay? And we mean also, by simplicity, we mean clarity. We elevate clear meaning, always we elevate clear meaning over ambiguity or over confusion. And that's intuitive, by the way. We want to be clear, not only in our speech but also in our writing. And when we talk about simplicity, we are economical in our words. So we avoid unnecessary phrases, unnecessary words, and we are always direct to the point. Now, don't conflate, don't confuse simplicity for what it's not. So we don't simplify the thought itself. We don't simplify the writing. It's not simplistic writing. It's not simplistic thinking. And of course, we don't reduce the inherent value or the weight of the idea. If anything, we actually we can make it more crisp. Okay. But bear in mind, this is not a rule. A principle is not a rule. A principle is a general mindset to writing. Okay. All right. So we will explore four concepts in order for the principle to sink in. So we'll go for action, character, concision, coherence, and cohesion. That's number 4. Okay, starting with action. Now compare these two. They're the same idea, let's say. They're the same statements, but compare them. Which one reads better for you? Let's say A is the one on the top and B is the one in the bottom. So A or B. And again, you can type on the chat box. Okay, and Sarah says the first one. I'm interested in hearing the rest. Okay, I can see that number 2. Okay, I can see that number 2. Okay, now of course we need to understand why it's better. Why number 2 reads better. So let's break it down. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So verbs are actually more readable than nouns. The reason is because they fly immediately into the mind of the reader. So the Federalists argue in regard to the destabilization of government by popular democracy. Notice that we fronted popular democracy. We put it in the subject, and we, let's say, turn destabilization into destabilizes. So from noun to verb. And factions tended to believe instead of having the tendency to believe, or their belief in the tendency. So if you put all of that together, you'll have something like this. The Federalists argued that popular democracy destabilized government because they believed that factions tended to further, that's the verb, of course, their self-interest at the expense of the common good. Now, I want you to look at it like very quickly, because you will apply this now yourselves. So take a minute, try to, again, reverse engineer it. Okay, now let's go to the fun part. This is where you'll try to maybe go against your writing tendency. So see the underlined phrases. Try to find that action, that verb that actually describes the the context of the sentence, or describes the actual thought of the sentence. You don't need to change anything, just the underlined phrases. And of course, you can share on the chat. So I'll give you like maybe 3 to 4 minutes to do that. Oh, okay. All right, that's good. Okay, you can actually share your answer when you're ready on the chat box. It'd be interesting to see how you think about um, these sentences. Okay, let's all right, anyone would like to share? Maybe we can discuss how you can. Anyone? All right, okay, I'll just go ahead and share the editing for you, or the answer for you. Now, when let's take. Oh, okay. So you got a minute. Yes, they focus on. Yeah. Yes, they focus on. Oh, that's good job. Good job. Yeah. Um. All right. Anyone else? Anyone would like to share? All right. Let's do that. Now, let's read the first one. Terry is of the view that CDA means a critical discourse. If you're in linguistics, you'll understand that. CDA is helpful in bringing about the change that is. Now, as of the view is quite long. It's like I said, it's kind of like, it's not a nominalization, of course. It's not like a noun, but it's too complex, let's say, where especially when you have especially when you have um, an easier and more direct way to say it. So Terry sees that CDA can instigate. Instigate is the same thing about, it's the same thing as saying bring about. Bring about social change, sorry, can instigate. Okay, so just by changing the action here, you can have a crisper and a clearer kind of um, writing construction, or a line of thought. Now let's focus on the second one. The focus on many discourse analyses on newspaper is on making people more mindful of how the manipulation of language is like, as well as the revealed biased language usage. There's so much to work with here. So let's break it down. So the focus of many discourse analyses, notice that um, many discourse analysts. So analyses, which is you have one analysis, many analyses. We changed it into the person who does that. So many discourse analysts, so the people who do uh, who focus on discourse. So many discourse analysts focus on newspaper um, instead of is on making to make people more mindful of how language, instead of the manipulation of language, you have how language can be manipulated, as well as how language can reveal bias. Um, if you go back, you can see the revealed bias language usage, which is, of course, it takes a bit of time to kind of for your mind to process. Let's look at the third one. According to recent studies, the tendency of children in relearning is faster than the adult counterparts. Again, you have tendency and you have relearning, so you just need to kind of break it down or reduce it. So you say children tend to relearn faster than their adults counterparts. Okay, so just by changing the action, you can have a fresh sense, or a refreshing style of writing. Okay, let's look at what action is in a nutshell. So actions are more concrete than nouns, especially the abstract ones, those that are, say, vague and highly abstract. Verbs should be descriptive, and of course, verbs should have a proper character. Well, this is the next concept, and this is a good transition for the next concept, by the way. Let's look at what a proper character is. Now, look at this sentence. It's about language acquisition. I want you to look at the underlined phrases and ask yourselves these two questions. Who gives the evidence? Who does this process of acquisition? The answer is in the context of the sentence. So I'll give you and it's better that you type the answer on the chat box so I can engage with you. Okay, so anyone? Okay, let's start with the easier one. Child foreign language acquisition. Now, who acquires foreign language acquisition in this phrase? Um, Children, right? So children do that. And of course, adult foreign language acquisition, adults in this phrase. So yeah, as you can see, you can actually extract the subject from the context of the sentences. So let's try to break it down for you. Now, when we say evidence has been given, that means someone or something gives the evidence. And evidence is given by maybe a scientist, maybe a linguist, maybe a psychologist, or maybe you can say the the research, recent research, and so on and so forth. Well, let's go with studies supported the evidence. Okay, child for language acquisition is quicker. Again, who does this process? Who does the language acquisition? Children. So you can say children acquire a foreign language quicker. And of course, adult foreign language acquisition, it will have acquire foreign language. Now, let's put all of these components together and we'll have something like this. Studies supported the evidence that children acquire a foreign language quicker than adults. Okay, it's a far cry from the first one, which is highly abstract. It's so, let's say, ambiguous. It's unclear. Right? Evidence has been given in support of the view, and notice the difference. It's quite a stark difference here. Okay, now I want you to give this a shot. Okay, look at these characters, or the subjects in traditional grammar as we call them. Look at these characters in each statement, and try to make them, let's say, more concrete or more descriptive. Okay, if you can't find it, then try to infer it from the context. Try to find it even if there's no subject. I'll give you some time to do that. If you look at the first one, try to focus on the person. Try to focus on the person. Yes. Okay, that's good. So, philosopher. Okay. Now, and that's good. Yeah, philosopher. Now, in the second one, try to find, let's say, the proper character for the second one. Okay. Ask yourself, who's doing this? Okay, that's right. Yes. Okay. Now, the last one requires a bit of work, um, but you can get it. Like, again, ask yourself who produces these reports in the educational domain. Who's doing that? Could be reporters. Ask yourself who works in education. Educators, yes, educators. Okay, that's wonderful. Let's break them down together. So let's take the first one. Ancient Greek philosophy. Researchers, academics, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Ancient Greek philosophy held discussions on contemporary topics that modern philosophy downplays in its writing. Now, let's take this. So we can say ancient Greek philosophers discussed modern philosophers downplay in their writing. Just simply by giving that flesh and blood. Oh my goodness! Can you hear me, by the way? My connection sort of juggled, I guess. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Wonderful. So just by adding that flesh and blood feeling into the character, you'll have a flavor of in your writing. Okay, let's look at the second one. One outstanding question in science concerns the evolution of the universe and more specifically its expansion rate. Now, you can infer this from the word science. So who does sciencing? Who does the science? Scientists, right? So just simply by saying that they are concerned. So scientists are concerned with one outstanding question about the evolution of the universe and more specifically its expansion rate. The last one needs a bit of work. Several reports within the educational domain argue that an integration of digital competence in education is highly important for future employability and knowledge acquisition. Now there's a lot to work with here, but let's take it bit by bit, okay? So several reports within the educational domain, educators, okay? Educators argue, where do they argue? In their reports, okay? That an integration of digital competence in education is highly important. Now, who needs to do this? Turkey, oh, okay. All right, who needs to do this? Academic institutions, right? So we can say institutions need to integrate digital competence. And of course, instead of saying in their education, we can make it even more descriptive and more specific. Where do they need to put that? It's just an example, of course. You can, depending on your essay or research, you will know where to put that. So in their student learning outcomes for future employability and knowledge acquisition. So just by let's say tweaking or doing tweaking a bit, just a little bit of the statement, you can have a more descriptive and more precise writing in your essay or paper. Okay, now sorry, I just want to. Oh, okay, now it's gone. Right. Now, how do you find or how do you infer characters and turn them into subjects? Well, you must do three things. First, when you look at the statement, always ask yourself who's doing this. So look up the characters. Now, sometimes, and maybe most of the time, especially when you're reading research papers, most of the time you won't be able to find them. So seek them out. Ask yourself who's doing that, who's producing that, who's processing that, etc. And once you find the proper character, connect the character with the proper action. So as you can now, we can say that the action, the first concept and the second concept, they go hand in hand. They're together actually. You cannot have one. You cannot have. You can't have a good action with a poor character. So they are together. Um, and also, you need to understand the difference between abstract and concrete characters. Now, when we talk about abstract, they're mostly, if not all, inanimate objects, like the studies, the reports, the evidence, etc. On the other hand, when we say concrete, we refer to the flesh and blood characters. So they're humans, animate subjects, like the researchers, the journalists, the scientists, and so on and so forth. Now, how do you decide between the two? You have to consider your reader, especially when you're using an abstract character. Does it add to the reader? Does it make them understand your point better? So you need to consider your reader in this regard. Now, one important matter, the character in the passive form. So passive form, just quickly, it refers to if I say, for example, children acquire language, we say language is acquired. So we get rid of children, or we toss them aside. Can we do that with the concept of character? Well, only if you can answer these three questions. Again, we're focusing on the reader here. Is it necessary for the reader to know the character? Now, when it comes to like the example language is acquired, most likely it will matter like who's doing that. An acquire language, or adults can acquire a second language. So is it necessary for the reader to know? The second one is, does it help them move from one idea to another? Now, help them how? Help them easily. Uh, does it facilitate the idea of the paragraph and even at the sentence level from one to another? And last but not the least, which one can give your reader a more coherent and informative point of view? Sometimes you want to have the active, sometimes you because it is more coherent and it informs the reader immediately. So only when you answer these three questions will you be able to decide how to go about either introducing or omitting your character. Um, okay, now we're done with the concept, the first and the second concept. Now I want you to again reflect on your writing more. The third concept is called concision. Now, concision can be understood as an extra weight. Okay, um, even sentences can have extra weight to them. So, like words and phrases that are not needed in to demystify or illustrate the idea. So, I want you to I want you to look at the sentence and see which phrases or which words can be get rid of, can be just trimmed. Just type the words that you think that are not necessary here on the chat box. Okay, get. Okay, see, yeah, I agree, yeah. May, okay, okay, let's hear from two more. I guess that's anyone else? Okay, hearing none, I guess I can proceed. Okay, so if you, well, it's a shame because you can't actually just take it and do it on your own because it's because of the format of the workshop. Um, but if you spend some time on this and try to reduce it, you might end up with this. I may ignore the notion that businesses should be principally moral, even if it lowers their profits. I must admit, I must confess something to you. This is from an IELTS reading passage, to be honest, and just shocked me when I saw that. It's like, okay, I see what you're doing in your test. Anyway, um, let's analyze that. Let's put that into um, perspective. So my views may seem now may and seem they kind of imply each other. It's like explaining each other. You know the proverb in Arabic. You explain water with water, or the idiom. So it's the same thing. May and seem they kind of explain each other in a way. Um, and my views as well. So well, when you say I, that means you're talking about your own view. Ignore the notion instead of the belief. They're quite the same thing. Um, look at that businesses should be principally moral instead of act in accordance with moral principles. Like I said, remember this is a style of writing. This is not a rule. Okay, so I'm not saying should act in accordance with moral principles is bad writing. I'm saying this is um, a type of approaching writing. Um, even if this reduces or lowers their profit, instead of reduction in their profit, we say reduces their profit. Okay, and you'll have this in at the end. I may ignore the notion that businesses should be principally moral, even if it lowers their profits. Okay, um, five things, sorry, to consider when you remove words. Delete the words that mean little or nothing, anything, and don't be, let's say, don't be attached to the words you write. So if they don't mean anything, just get rid of them immediately. Also, if you have two words that repeat each other or imply each other, get rid of them as well. Always favor a word that that explains a phrase. Okay, so we had the example at the beginning of the workshop. Bring about can instigate, fix up, mitigate, and so on and so forth. Always favor a word that explains or that replaces a phrase. Now the last one is well, it's not. It's a bit controversial because do we keep adjectives and adverbs or not? Many style manuals, and if you're interested to know about this, they say delete adjectives and adverbs. Now, it's just a point of view that if they are useless, okay, only if they are useless adjectives and adverbs. But maybe in a lot of instances they are useful, okay, but only when they're useless do you get rid of them. Let's try this again. Okay, let's try this again. Now that you have a, let's say, a sense of what to get rid of, try again. You can go ahead and type the words that mean little, or they imply each other, or they don't don't add anything to the meaning. And again, write the words in the chat box. I can give you a hint. Does the phrase "to me" mean anything? Do we need it? Yeah. Um, do we need the conclusion that? Okay. Like I said, you'll need to kind of go against your tendency of writing here. Even, yeah. So, um, okay. Let's yes, I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. Maybe you can just say big businesses, or the most powerful businesses. It's okay. I'll wait for maybe um one more answer. So which one do you think you can get rid of? Okay, I guess ultimate. I would say yes. I would say yes. Ultimate, yeah, ultimate. Um, if what is the difference between the public has responsibility or the public has the ultimate responsibility? It's just an emphasis. At the end, they have responsibility, so it doesn't add much. It doesn't modify that much in the context of this statement. Let's okay, I can hear powering. I can replace hopeful can replace it with a single word. Um, we can, yes, we either either saying is empowering, or we can keep them as well. We can keep them as well. Let me show you what I've got. Okay, that the public is responsible for how big businesses behave is empowering and hopeful, not disappointing. Now, even in the trimmed sense, you can get rid of uh, not disappointing, for example. You don't need it, right? You can just stop at hopeful. All right. Notice that instead of the behavior, how big businesses behave, um, notice that ultimate, we didn't even say is ultimately responsible. We just got rid of it, right? Because responsibility is responsibility. So yeah, so think about these things when you're right. Now let's review what we've got so far, so we can let's review what we got so far. So we said that actions or verbs should be crisp, should be precise and specific. Characters um, should be concrete or abstract, and preferably human characters if they explain um, the idea better. Okay, and we said also that you can omit them or you can remove them in the passive voice when they don't add much to the idea, when they don't help the reader understand a certain concept, or uh, let's say uh, incoherence of the paragraph. And of course concision, words that mean nothing, that or little, or that imply each other, or they are confusing, like a phrase and you can replace it by a word. So all of that, now we want to take 1, 2, 3 into number 4, because this is where you're not going to write sentences in your papers. You're going to write lengthy paragraphs, and I'm sure some of you write tens of pages. Um, so you wanna make sure that everything so far that you've got can be translated into number 4. Um, I know it's unreasonable for me to do a paragraph long tasks, but let's try to at least understand the main idea here. Now, I'm going to show you this paragraph, and when you skim it, like after 40 seconds, I'm going to show you another version of the paragraph, and you can tell me the differences that you can see. Okay, so go ahead. So go ahead and skim the paragraph. Okay, now I want to show you the next version. So there you go. Now again, try to read it, and please share with me what you notice in the chat box. What differences can you spot? Okay, the references. Yes, the references. Yeah. what differences can you see, especially in the focus on how the ideas are presented? What do you notice in the ideas? So does it take a long time to get to, let's say, what the writer wants to say, references? Yeah. And this is a characteristic of academic writing, by the way. Okay. So I'll just ask the harmless question here. Uh, does the idea here in the second paragraph take a long time or not? Nope. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's okay, if you can see here, let's, sorry, I got confused. Well, there is other than everything. Yes, 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 Rahim, yeah, you're right. Let's break it down. Let me break it down for you. As you can see here in this slide, the one on the top is the original paragraph. The one below is kind of the enhanced version of it. As you can see, that the characters actually have this the results of 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you know, in academic writing, we tend to kind of choose a different character instead of giving every person or placing every researcher or researchers um, at the beginning of the statement or the sentence. So this delays actually the main point of these characters. And if you can see that, we said various studies and then we bracketed them. We referenced them in using the in-text citation. And notice that in the enhanced version, it's direct to the point. So we don't spend much time saying that there is a positive relationship. Well, if you say that vocabulary knowledge can predict learners' reading ability or performance, then it's the same thing as saying or implying the positive relation. And of course, like I said, this is a style of writing. You can actually add it if you want, but look at how it's direct to the point. It doesn't waste time. It's like throwing a dart into the bullseye. Um, again, in the original, it takes its time to get to the problem of the study or the main idea of the study. But look at the enhanced version. It builds up the problem. It builds up the problem. Though the aforementioned studies focus on the positive correlation of the two, the frequency of vocabulary, high, mid, low frequency, is an area not yet investigated. So we jump immediately to the point. And last but not the least, notice that in the original version, there's that hindering transition. It actually breaks down the flow of the idea in this regard. Whereas the enhanced version, if you look at the transition to fill this gap in the literature, it actually creates coherence. It facilitates the flow of the paragraph. And of course, instead of saying attempted investigation, I just immediately say investigated the link between vocabulary or frequency type of vocabulary and reading comprehension. Now, let's understand this in simple terms. What do we mean by cohesion? Now, sentences are considered cohesive when they build up the information of the paragraph. Now, imagine you have a set of concrete blocks. So you put one block and then next to it a block, and then you build like a wall. It's like you're constructing a wall. So each block, you know, helps the next one to grip and to stand. So the same thing with sentences. They build up the information of the paragraph. And also they create a flow, and this flow should add add to the experience of the reader. Okay, they should experience the text easily, and they should sense that flow. Um, Also, it's very important that you begin with something, let's say, feasible, comprehensible, that your reader can immediately connect with. And if you want to, in a sense, it should prepare the next idea, okay? Especially when you're transitioning between two paragraphs, or in the paragraph itself, it should prepare for the next idea. Now, coherence, on the other hand, which is used interchangeably sometimes with cohesion, but coherence, consider like you're taking a step backward and you're looking at the whole text from a bird's eye view. Okay, you're looking at the text from a bird's eye view, very broad, and you're testing or you're checking if there is a sense of flow in the whole, in the whole, not just the paragraph, but also the text, the essay, the whole essay. And of course, you want to make sure that each sentence contributes to the whole picture of your text. Now, I understand it is very unreasonable of me to ask you to improve this, but I'm not expecting you to kind of get it. It takes a long time, by the way. I just want you to train your mind. Train your mind. Um, test this. How can you improve the coherence of this paragraph? Okay. Like I said, I'm not asking you to write it all over again like 5 minutes, but I want you to just to, like I said, train your mind a bit. So I'll give you like 2 to 3 minutes. And please, you can share it on the chat box. Any interesting kind of revisions if you want. Okay, I guess we're running out of time, so um, let's see. Okay, let's read it first. The basis of the new vision of the democratic world, equality of genders, is being challenged by the increasing cost of education, marriage, and standard of living that have been rising fast for the last several years. Increases in family income have been significantly outpaced by increases in marriage and education expenses during that period. Only the children of the financially able families in Western society will be able to afford a college education if university tuitions are further overpriced. In line with this trend, knowledge and intellectual skills, in addition to gaining financial stability, will divide people as classes. When that happens, the basis of equal opportunity driven by the Western world could thus be challenged by the inclusive opportunities of education. Now, the best metaphor that I can use for this paragraph is that you open your laptop and it's slowed down by many bugs. So there are a lot of bugs in your computer, and it's slowing. You cannot run it, smoothly. So this actually describes this paragraph. Now, let me show you how we can improve its coherence and cohesion, not for you as a writer, but for your reader. Okay. Now, the Western world has been promoting gender equality in the last several years. However, it has been a challenge due to the rising cost of marriage and standard of living. Currently, the average family income is significantly outpaced by the inflated expenses of education. If this continues, only children of a financially able family will get to receive a 4-year college education. and only a stratum of the society will have access to knowledge and intellectual skills conducive for financial stability. More inequality will thus divide people as classes. Indeed, the biggest challenge to gender equality in the context of this new vision could thus be people deprived of educational opportunities. See how it's easy to understand, and the ideas immediately fly into your mind, as opposed to this wall of text. Okay, so just to conclude, notice that you can produce as many versions as possible when it comes to the principle of simplicity. So you can have this, or you can have this. Now, both are, let's say, legit. They follow the same principle, but one of them actually gets even, let's say, more extreme with its directness and conciseness. So B, as you can see, B is more extreme than A, and A is less extreme, has this balance. So, but I just want to clarify something here. When we improve our coherence and cohesion of our writing, it's not about reducing the amount of words. It's not like if you have 150, you reduce them to 100. This is not. It's not about that. It's about conveying your thoughts in clear, vivid, and evocative prose. It always have this elevated sense of meaning, an elevated sense of vividness as well. Okay, without sacrificing your content. So we want to convey our thoughts as it is, without it being sacrificed in a clear and descriptive manner. So in conclusion, the principle of simplicity is about having a clear verb, proper character, a consistent line of thought, a coherent flow of the whole idea or ideas. Now, that being said, you shouldn't treat this principle of simplicity dogmatically. Don't be extreme with it. Don't treat it as a rule, but treat it as a mindset, as a principle, like I said, as a style of writing. Okay, it's not a rule. Because sometimes it's actually counterproductive. I can give you one example. Imagine you're writing bad news to someone. Like, you don't want to be direct and vivid, and you don't want to be too graphic with it. You want to be sympathetic, and that comes in the last point. Please approach the principle of simplicity in the context of your writing. So don't take it without your writing context. So that is it. Thank you very much for tuning, and special thanks for the Center of Writing for accepting this idea. I'm sure this is an unconventional workshop from what I've seen throughout the year. But thank you for being so open and accepting for this workshop. And I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for tuning in.